Hey everyone! Welcome to my Guilds of Ravnica Set review. There's a lot to get through. I'm really excited for this set, so I'm going to just jump right into things. Although there will be a couple differences between how I've do this set review and I've done past set reviews. In that, in past reviews, I did like one video for each color, then one final video for artifacts and gold cards and lands. But with Guilds of Ravnica, because it is focusing on 2 color combinations, in that last video, since there's so many gold cards, would be like the length of all the other videos combined, so we're not doing that. So instead, I'm linking, Monday will be white and blue, Tuesday will be black and red, Wednesday will be, green and artifacts, and then I will, for the last 3 videos, I'll do each color pair, ending with, 2 of the guilds represented, ending with Selesyna and lands. Saving the best for last, both Selesyna, the best guild, and me gushing about basic land art, because basic lands are amazing. So, things about this set in general, like, as always, I am focusing on limited for this review, and to that end, I haven't had any sort of rating system in the past, and I really don't have anything that I feel that I like to want to use. Like, I just don't want to just use like a letter grade, so I'm probably actually going to put off doing a grading system for cards for this video, just because I haven't found something that doesn't just feel like a rip-off of what another content creator's made. But I'll think about it in the future. Instead, I want to just continue to walk my broad thought process on analyzing these cards. Furthermore, I will have notes on ideas for Commander, but I do have some changes to my Commander stuff coming up soon, and I'll have a video on that soon enough, but there isn't going to be a huge focus on Commander besides me saying like, hey, I'm interested in this for XYZ. So, Guilds of Ravnica is a Ravnica set, so it's very much focused on 2 colors. And you might be like, oh, but it's a limited set. Like, aren't most limited sets you want to be in 2 colors? Yes, but Ravnica goes really deep on those 2 colors. There's lots of gold cards, so colored cards require 2 or more colors, but this one there's no 3 color cards. But just going really heavy on the 2 color cards, and overall just being like really invested in those 2 colors. That said, there's a fair amount of fixing between Guildgates and other things that like it actually isn't infeasible to splash, and a lot of the mechanics are made to interweave with each other, so they actually work well, if you want to like mix guild mechanics and whatnot. But yeah, but you will be going very deep on those 2 color combinations, and you definitely want to be sticking into one of the 5 color combinations supported in the format, because if you try to play Simic blue-green, you're not gonna have any luck, because you're not gonna have any of the more powerful gold cards that the other decks have. So you're not gonna want to do that. In Guilds of Ravnica, you're gonna be focusing on red-white, green-white, red-blue, blue-black, and which am I missing? Black-green. So each color shows up twice in the guilds, and the other 5 color combinations will be in the winter set. So, without further ado, let's jump right into here with white. So first up we have Blade Instructor. Blade Instructor is a 3-mana 3/1 with Mentor. Mentor is the Boros mechanic. It just means whenever this creature attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature with lesser power. So Mentor kind of like helps build up power if you have like small creatures, or smaller creatures than your Mentor things. This one, like, there's 2 things you gotta look at for Mentor. One, you have to look at the card as a whole, and a 3-mana 3/1 isn't a card I want to play. I'm not a fan of 2-mana 3/1s. They just die way too easily for my taste. But in the Mentor things, it's like, it has 3 power, so it's often going to be able to trigger mentor. Like, having 2 power creatures isn't hard. It's when you get like the 2 power mentor creatures when you have to start like being like, okay, now I need to actually have like token enablers and small things to actually pump up. But the thing is with Blade Instructors, that this thing is going to die immediately. It gets 1 attack in, it bumps it up once, and I think it's fine, but it's not great. Like, it's not unplayably bad, but it's by no means good. I will say that I will have a natural opinion malice against Boros cards, because I hate Boros. Red-white's the worst color combination. Aggro is bad. Durl around forever, or at least be mid-range like a sensible person. But yeah. But also, Boros actually will be, honestly, the kind of how good the Boros decks are will be kind of a determining factor of like the set as a whole, and how the environment plays out. Because if Boros is strong, then you're not going to be able to do a lot of the more dirtily things. Like, it'll be back to Amonkhet Limited, where it's like, is this gonna, if Boros is strong, it'll be one of those formats of, do you have a 2-drop? Oh, you don't? You're dead. But if Boros ends up being a bit too slow, or a bit more mid-rangey, then other things can start to flourish. So Boros will definitely be kind of like a signpost to what the rest of the format will be like. Also remember, as always, things will be slower and sealed as opposed to draft, even though I'm focusing on draft for my analysis, because it's the better format. Also, it's the more played format. Even if it's not for pre-releases. But at pre-releases, things are generally slower because A, it's sealed, and B, because people like playing their big splashy rares. So next up we got Bounty Agent. It is a 2-mana 2/2 with Vigilance, and you may tap, sacrifice it, and destroy target legendary permanent that's an artifact, creature, or enchantment. Okay, so it's a 2-mana 2/2 with Vigilance, and while not amazing for a rare, I mean, that's a playable creature. This is a decent enough creature for that. It can hold a counter for like any 3-power mentor creature and things like that. It having Vigilance pairs well with Convoke, which I'll talk going into a Convoke card. But it being able to sacrifice it to hit one of their legends, which probably legendary creatures is the only thing that's going to come up in limited, is a huge upside. Like, if they have that. Like, it's not one of those cards that's like bad enough that you'll sideboard it out if they don't have it. If you're gonna run this creature, you'll run it because it's just a solid creature. But the fact that it can also act as just like unconditional removal for their bombs is real nice. And I don't think it's a high pick in draft, but it's definitely not a bad. You could do worse. Next up is Candlelight Vigil. It is a 4-mana enchantment aura, and it gives +3/+2 and Vigilance. If you've seen my past set reviews, you know I don't like auras, and this is one with very few payoffs. This is a 4-mana, this is a set with very few payoffs for auras. This is a 4-mana aura that gives fine stats, but it has all the natural, like, problems of auras. And there's a few hexproof creatures, but I don't think Candlelight Vigil is good. You want to be doing more of your 4-drops. Next up is Citywide Bust. It is a 3-mana sorcery. Destroy all creatures of toughness 4 or greater. Oh, I forgot to mention, the one that destroys legendary creatures. Yeah, that's going to be sweet in Commander. So, Citywide Bust. It is a 3-mana sorcery, 1 white, and you destroy all creatures with toughness 4 or greater. Board wipes generally are very good in Commander, or not Commander, I mean, they are good in Commander, but in Limited. Because you get to leverage them to your advantage and things like that. That said, this one does require your opponent to have valid targets. And, like, sure, it's a symmetrical effect, although this one isn't as symmetrical. And ideally, if you're like in this like tokens go wide strategy, like you can destroy all your opponent's big stuff. All their like big like convoke creatures or big Golgari creatures and whatnot. That said, I think toughness 4 is a tall order, and this might kill a few things, but not a lot. I don't think it's bad, but it is one that you're definitely gonna have to pay attention to and sideboard out aggressively. Like, this is by no means a cleansing Nova. Next up is Collar the Culprit. But that said, it's still good. I would still take it highly, but it's not like the most amazing thing in the world. But next up is Collar the Culprit, which is a 4-mana instant at common, which is the same thing, but only destroys target creature. This is fine. It's okay removal. Like, it'll hit the things that are big that you have otherwise have trouble dealing with, and you'll run it. It's by no means premium removal, but you'll run it because a deck needs removal. And obviously against certain decks, like, its utility goes a lot higher, although I could see a lot of times when you're playing against like a Dimir or Izzet player where this thing is just stone useless against most of their stuff. Next up is Conclave Tribunal. It is a 4-mana enchantment with Convoke. Convoke lets you kind of tap your creatures to pay for your spells. So essentially you can tap them to pay for the mana cost. So obviously you want to have like lots of small creatures and things like that. And that's something we'll pay attention to and we'll talk about in a bit. But when this enters the battlefield, exile target non-permanent opponent controls until Conclave Tribunal leaves the battlefield. It's an O-ring effect, and I mean 4 mana seems to be about the standard fare for an O-ring effect nowadays, and honestly that's a perfectly fine price to pay for its effect. Like, I don't mind 4 mana for this effect, and it doesn't need Convoke to make it good, and Convoke is just pure upside if you need it a bit earlier or you need to save some mana. Honestly, I don't see myself actually convoking this out that often unless I'm mana screwed. Just because by the time you're like wanting to use a effect like this, usually you have 4 mana to do this. Like, you're not usually wanting to like O-ring something turn 3, but you can if you want to. But yeah, no, but very good card, like premium white removal. Next up is Crush Contraband. It is a 4-mana instant with choose one or both, exile target artifact or exile target enchantment. This is very good. Like, it's just very good. And for what it does, I should say. Like, it hits multiple things, it exiles them. You know how much it's like, for limited, it's not forsake the worldly, but as kind of like a sideboard tech against effects like this. Like, this is very good. And in Commander, this is going to be, I won't say staple, but like, it can slot into a lot of decks that include white. It's kind of like a new like take on a like Return to Dust. But yeah, no, I like it. Crush Contraband. But that said, it is a sideboard card. You're not going to want to take this very highly. Next up is Dawn of Hope. It is a 2-mana enchantment, and whenever you gain life, you may pay 2. If you do, draw a card. And you can pay 3 and a white to create a 1/1 white soldier creature token with lifelink. So, that first part of it, like 2-mana enchantment, I mean, that's pretty cheap. The cost is negligible. Whenever you gain life, you may pay 2 if you do draw a card. A lot of the Selesyna stuff has things that will like gain you life incidentally, and it'll make like these soldier tokens with lifelink. That'll also give you life. That if you are in Selesyna or even in Boros a little bit, but if you're in Selesyna, you won't have a problem like getting at least 1 trigger of life. Obviously, you want some that, but if you're able to pick this up early, you can get the life gain you need to make this good. Like, the first time you do it, great, you've made back the card you did. And then just getting that card advantage, especially with these 1/1 white soldier tokens, like, that's just such a great card advantage engine that you can get hold of. And this is also just amazing in any sort of board stall, just to be able to start pumping out and building up your line and everything. And yeah, no, I'm really, really high on Dawn of Hope. Also, just, I love all the Selesyna art in this set. It's just so beautiful. With like the sunlight through the autumn leaves and like the look of the armor and the Selesyna architecture. Hi, I really like Selesyna, like, a lot. Like, a lot. Next up is Demotion, which is 1 white for an enchantment aura. Enchanted creature can't block, and its activated abilities cannot be activated. So it can still attack, so against a very aggressive creature, this isn't as good. So obviously this is really good if you're on the beatdown and you just want to get rid of the big blocker or anything. That said, there also are a lot of relevant activated abilities in this set. There's like creatures that make tokens after, like, for paying mana and other things like that. There's Demir cards that surveil and whatnot. And Demotion gets around that and kind of shut these things down. And for really cheap cost too. You might want to sideboard it out if you are playing against a very aggressive Boros deck, which is kind of funny since, like, this is like depicting like a Boros Demotion. But yeah, no, this is really good. Also, the flavor of this card is so good. This set is so good. I am so excited for this set. Everything about it. The flavor, the lore, the art, like the mechanics. It's just like, oh, it's so beautiful and so wonderful. I'm so excited. Next up is Divine Visitation. It's a 5-mana enchantment, which says, if 1 or more creature tokens would be created under your control, create that many 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance are created instead. So obviously you have to have things that, like, work with this. But if you have the enablers, like if you are in like this Selesyna, like, go wide token stack or some, or in like the Boros stuff, this will just wreck face. Like, when all of your, like, incidental Mega 1/1 lifelinker becomes make a 4/4 angel with flying and vigilance, that gets out of control fast. And this is honestly the build around card that I'm looking forward to most in draft. Be able to play a Divine Visitation deck. Also, the flavor text is amazing. The angels appreciated the offer, but politely declined to eat any birdseed. But yeah, no, this is great. Like, it is 5 mana, but so in any deck like this, you are kind of like looking to play the mid game. And honestly, that's turn 5 is about the turn I'd want to start getting this kind of effect. So yeah, I'm real big on Divine Visitation. Oh, but like, try I'm definitely gonna be like trying to do tokens once the arena open beta begins and I can restart building my collection. Okay, next up is Flight of Equinox, which is a 7 and a white for a 4/5 flying human knight with Convoke. So the last Convoke we saw, which was the 4 mana O-Ring, which is like, you know, I'm willing to pay 4 mana for that. I'm not willing to pay 8 mana for a 4/5 flyer. How much mana would I pay for a 4/5 flyer? I think 6 is a decent rate for a 4/5 flyer. And that said, like, in any creatures you have, like, and having 2 creatures by turn 6 isn't unreasonable. Having 3 creatures by turn 5 isn't unreasonable. And on turn 5, this thing is great. So yeah, no, you do need to have the cheap creatures or the token creators to, like, make this work. But if you do, it works real well. And, like, that's just a good flying beater. It's a 4/5 flyer, like, that's just good stats. Next up is Scourge for battle, which is 1 white for sorcery. Put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. I would be so in for this if it was an instant. The fact that it isn't a sorcery, there isn't really any +1/+1 counter theme that like you're benefiting. I guess the idea is that you can like pump up one of your mentor creatures so it can like mentor another creature and kind of like spiral out there, but I'm not big on Gird for battle. I mean, I'm always down for like cute curls and armor. But yeah, I don't think this is good. Like, at sorcery speed, I'm just not interested in this. Like, in many ways, you can think about this as an aura being like, 1 white. Target creature gets like +2, or 2 creatures get +1/+1 each. And that's fine, but it's not great. And I'm just not into it. And like, I don't want to spend a card on that. Next up is Hosta Marshall, which is 1 white for 1/1, and whenever it and 2 other creatures attack, make a 1/1 soldier with lifelink. Okay, so whenever it and 2 other creatures attack, make a 1/1. Yeah, that's fine. This thing's gonna die immediately though. They're just gonna block this, and like, unless you're attacking with 3 creatures and they have no blockers, at which point you're already in a good situation. This is essentially a 1 mana 1/1 that makes a 1/1 lifelink when it dies, which is pretty much, we actually have that card elsewhere in the set, which is actually better because that one's less conditional. So I think it's fine if you are kind of like in this mentor deck, because it is a small guy that is easy to mentor up. He's a cheap guy for Convoke, he does replace himself, and I think he's not bad, but he's only fine. So you are getting like 2 mana 2/2 power toughness out of this guy, and maybe like turn 1 you'll get like a point of damage in, but I don't have high hopes for Hosta Marshall. He isn't going to be in his career for very long. Next up is Healer's Hawk, which is a 1 mana 1/1 with flying and lifelink. 1 mana 1/1 flying lifelink. On its own, I'm not super into, but it is a cheap creature for both Convoke, and once that gets like some mentor counters on there, like ideally when you're with the mentor mechanic, you want to be putting counters on creatures that have like keywords and things that are getting like scale well with those, and lifelink's a good one. And if you can pump this once, like just getting a 2/2 flying lifelink, that's a creature I'm interested in. You know, I rather like Healer's Hawk in both the white decks, so yeah. But this is the one I was talking about. It's Hunted Witness, which is a 1 white for a 1/1, which when it dies, make a 1/1 soldier with lifelink. I honestly think this is just a better version of Hosta Marshall. It is essentially, a lot of the ways, the same thing. It doesn't have to attack to get its 1/1, so it can jump block and get a 1/1, things like that. That said, I also just love the flavor on this one. It's like, oh, this guy that's probably been like coordinating with the police and whatnot, and like when he dies, like someone comes up to investigate, which is cool. But I think this is actually really good. He's good for Convoke. He holds mentor counters well. He leaves behind a reasonable body that like is good for all the same reasons. It's actually kind of better. It's kind of like a Doom Traveler effect, which is not bad. Next up is Inspiring Unicorn. It is a 4 mana 2/2, which whenever it attacks, creatures you control get +1/+1 till end of turn. Now, obviously, I should note that it doesn't say other creatures, so it does attack as a 3 mana, or a 3/3. But even then, it's a 4 mana 2/2 that attacks as a 3/3. I'm not looking to play 4 mana 3/3s that much, and it's even worse on the block. I guess the ideal thing is like, if you do go all in on tokens, it can help like kind of buff your team. But even then, like, it's such a bad body. Like, I would have liked this, like, I would have been more into it if it was better on, like, the defense being like, this is a 3/3 that only gives other creatures +1/+1. So I'm not actually that huge on Inspiring Unicorn. Yeah. Because that's also, like, the way that both, like, yes, Boros and Selesyna both like to do tokens, but it isn't so much go super wide. It's Selesyna wants tokens to kind of use as mana dorks to pump out their big creatures that will finish the game. And Boros wants a few tokens to buff up with their counters and make into big creatures. Neither of them in the set seem to be really wanting to go pure go wide. Like, there's a few rares and stuff that help promote you going wide a bit more. Inspiring Unicorn helps when you do that, but I don't feel like Inspiring Unicorn does as much. Like, I honestly would prefer, like, just a pure Inspired Charge over Inspiring Unicorn. Next up is Intrusive Pack Beast. It's a 5-mana, 3/3 Vigilance, and when it enters battlefield, tap up to 2 target creatures an opponent controls. So it's a 5-mana, 3/3 Vigilance, which I'm not super into. That's, like, not great. But tapping 2 creatures an opponent control is actually quite relevant. Like, that can push through damage. And if you are being this aggressive Boros deck, I could see running a couple of these as kind of like to help push in a last bit of damage. But it's by no means a high pick. Next up is Ledev Guardian, which is a 4-mana 2/4 with Convoke. Okay, 4-mana 2/4, not looking to play. Like, it is a good doggo, but not looking to play. 3-mana 2/4, you know what, I'm a little into that. Like, if you have one creature, convoke it out. But all of a sudden you're, like, asking a little bit of setup cost, although having a 2-drop isn't the highest setup, 1 or 2-drop isn't the highest setup cost. And even then you're only getting, like, a mediocre creature. Like, I like 3-mana 2/4s a lot more than I like 3-mana 4/2s, but, I think it's fine. It's nothing great. You know what is great though? That dog. Good doggo. Selesyna is best because they have the best dogs. Alright. Next up is Light of the Legion, which is a 6-mana, 5/5 flying mentor. And when it dies, put a +1/+1 counter on each white creature you control. I don't have to tell you that this is good. Like, 6-mana, 5/5 flyer, I'm in. That's a great card. Give it Mentor. Like, it has 5 power. It's gonna put a counter on something whenever it attacks. And if they have a removal spell for it, you still pump a lot of your team. And like I said, a lot of the set is gold cards, so a lot of your cries will still be white creatures. Like, this is just a very good card. Also, I like the backlighting, like sunlight and all that. Oh, very nice. Next up is Loxodon Restorer, which is a 6-mana 3/4 with Convoke. And when it enters battlefield, you gain 4 life. Okay. For this effect, 3/4, gain 4 life on ETB, I honestly want to be paying 4 mana for. Which, having 2 creatures out is starting to be a little bit more. Like, this is like... I am not big on Loxodon Restorer. I'm just not. It's just... It's not enough for what it demands. Like, a 3/4 body isn't bad, and I don't think this is a bad card by any means, but you... And if you have a really good setup, like, early on, if you're, like, able to get this out consistently turn 4 because you have a lot of the small creatures, this isn't bad. And obviously if the Boros deck does end up being very good and very aggressive, a lot of these incidental life gain cards become a lot better because kind of like being able to like put down this like relevant body will also gain you life to get a little bit more of a buffer. Which is kind of what the Selesyna wants to do against Boros. Becomes a little bit more relevant, but otherwise, I'm not huge on Loxodon Restorer. Next up is Luminous Bonds. It's 2 and white for an enchantment. which says enchanted creature cannot attack or block. Luminous Bonds is a good card. Take it. It's probably going to be one of White's best pieces of removal. It's Luminous Bonds. I don't know what else to say. I'm going to take my fair share of pack 1, pick 1 Luminous Bonds. I'm not going to be excited by it. I'm not going to be happy about it, but it will be the right pick because removal is removal. Next up is Parhelion Patrol, which is a 4-mana, flying, vigilance, and mentor. Okay, 4-mana, 3/2 flying vigilance. Yeah, it's not the best rate in the world, but honestly, I've run worse flyers, and it having mentor on there is actually quite nice. Like, a lot of the mentor creatures, like the first one I looked at, that like will just die immediately. This one doesn't die immediately. Also, Vigilance is relevant in the Selesyna decks for Convoke, and yeah, it consistently can get out because like any 1/1 you have that's attacking with this guy out is probably just going to be attacking as a 2/2 and things like that. So you know, I like it. It's not a bad 4-drop. Next up is a Righteous Blow. It is a 1-mana instant that deals 2 damage to any target attacking or blocking creature. It's Slash of Talons. It's fine. It's, like, you'll run them. Like, they're both can be used as combat tricks, kind of, as well as, like, just kind of removal. And it's not bad. And there are lots of, like, small things, and you can do it in response to mentor triggers and things like that, which gives it some advantage there. So, I can see Righteous Blow being decent. Next up is Rock Charger, which is a 3-mana 1/3 flyer. And whenever it attacks, target creature without flying gains flying until end of turn. You know, it's Pegasus Courser. It's fine. I don't know why I guess they just didn't want Pegasus Courser for the 3rd set in a row, because like there are Pegasi on Ravnica. Like the Selesyna use them. But yeah, I know. But Pegasus Courser is just real nice to getting your creatures in the air and things like that, and it being a 1/3 flyer means it actually holds mentor counters very well, so it will grow into a reasonable threat on its own. So I really like Rock Charger, honestly, even more than Pegasus Courser in past sets because of mentor. Next up is Skyline Scout, which is a 2-mana 2/1, and whenever it attacks, you may pay 1 white. If you do, it gains flying until end of turn. Well, this is the worst Gust Walker ever, but I'm not huge on pikers, but it is a piker that can gain evasion if you need to. It'll be one of those cards that will determine on how fast this format is. If this ends up being a fast format and you need your 2-drop, because this can trade off of early things, or if you are that fast deck, like push and damage if you need to, it becomes a lot more useful. But it's like, paying 2 mana is a steep price to give him flying. So I'm not huge on this, but I could see myself eating my words in a few weeks when we realize, hey everyone, we're all getting like just slammed in the face by Boros decks. Is 2 mana piker that can trade off against early aggro? I guess that's good enough. Next up is Stunt Son Home Stalwart. It is a 2-mana 2/2 with First Strike and Mentor. 2-mana 2/2 First Strike, I'm in. Give it Mentor, that's good. It survives combat often, it eats tokens easily, and that building kind of looks like a Hedron in the background. He has a big sword. Like, that's a nice big sword. That's an impractically big sword, I love it. My aesthetic when it comes to like fantasy stuff is like, I like practical armor, but I am such a sucker for just like impractical weapons. But yeah, no, this is just a really good 2-drop. Like, this is a premium 2-drop, and honestly a premium creature in both the Selesyna and the Boros decks. Yeah. Next up is Swarm Companions, which is a 3-mana sorcery that makes 2 1/1 soldier creature tokens of lifelink. making 2 creatures, obviously it's if you just look at your stats, you're getting like 2 mana, or 3 mana, 2/2 lifelink, which is but having 2 creatures is relevant. Like, these hold mentor counters, they can convoke stuff out, and I think this is just real good. Also, the flavor text is nice because it's just Karlov of the Ghost Council complaining about millennials, and that's just great. The trouble with youths these days is that, in outright defiance of their elders, they refuse to be bought. But yeah, no, I think it's just real good. They got cool cape things. Next up is Take Heart, which is a 1 mana instant, which gives target creature +2/+2 until turn, and you gain 1 life for each attacking creature you control. 1 mana +2/+2. It's not a giant growth, but like that's decent enough stats. It'll help you win a lot of combats. And you had some instant life gain we saw there was a couple things that cared about life gain, and as well as like in any sort of like race situation, like getting like that edge there. I know this is a reasonable combat trick. I mean, granted, it still is a combat trick, and like you don't want to be running too many of them, but this is one I'm not ashamed to run. Like, I like my good 1 mana combat tricks, and this kind of passes the bar for me. Next up is TIF District Guard, which is a 2 mana 2/2, which gets, when it enters battlefield, target creature gets +0/+1 until end of turn. Okay, that's a really weird boost that it's no +1/+1, but like, I guess it can sometimes be relevant. But for the most part, this will be a bear. This will be a 2 mana 1/2/2, which will sometimes let you push in with something else. It's fine. It's nothing great. It's fine. Venerated Loxodon, which is a 5 mana 4/4 with Convoke. And, so 5 mana 4/4 with Convoke, 5 mana 4/4, I'm not super into that, but, I mean, if I can Convoke with that, like, if I can, like, just having 1 creature by turn 4 to, like, get a 4 mana 4/4, I'm into that. And, when it enters battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature that convoked it. So this one wants you to convoke those creatures, so you want to be like, so this is one where it's like, you actively want to have as many creatures as you will, and you'll often, a lot of times you'll be convoking, which is like the minimum number of creatures you need, but this one will be like, you want to convoke with all your stuff. Like, in the ideal world, you have 5 tokens, you convoke with all 5 of them, and then you just paid a grand price of 0 mana for 9 points of power and toughness. But in reality, you'll probably be convoking this like 2 or 3 creatures, at which point, you're getting like 6 or 7, or like 6, or even if convoking with 1, then you're getting like a 4 mana 5/5 worth of stats, and that's real good. Also, Elephant Cleric. Elephant Cleric. Alright, well that's it for all the mono white stuff, but don't worry, there'll be plenty of white red and white green goodies when we get to those episodes. So now we're on to blue. But like I said, like, the monocolor ones only really give part of the story. Like, white is very generic, like, they're very generic cards that fit both of those decks, like, they're very generically useful, and the decks and the archetypes will get a lot more personality when we get into the gold cards. So, for blue, we're going to be looking at Izzet spell slinging and Demir doing stuff with surveil and being blue back control. So first up we got Capture Sphere, which is a 4 mana enchantment aura with flash, and you enchant creature when it enters battlefield, tap enchanted creature, and it doesn't untap. Honestly, premium blue removal. Like, these this is kind of like the like water knot like effects are usually very good, and this one having flash is quite nice as well. Also, it looks cool. So yeah, no, it's just good removal. Like, there's nothing else, there's nothing fancy to it. Next up is Chemistries Instinct, which is a 4 mana instant to draw 2 cards. And you can jumpstart it, which means it's kind of like flashback, but you also have to discard a card. So then you can pay its mana cost again and exile it. So essentially you can draw 2 cards, and then you can discard like something you don't need, like a land or something, and cast it again later on. That's really nice. Like, it's an instant-speed divination. Like divination, like for 1 more mana, which I think is fine. Like, it's not great card draw, but like it's acceptable card draw, and being able to hold up mana is nice in blue, both blue-black and blue-red. And the fact that you just get to do it again later is great. And I think this is just one of the premium card draw spells in the set. Next up is Citywide Sphinx, which is a 6-mana 5/4 flyer. And when it dies, surveil 2. Surveil is just scry, except in putting it on the bottom library. If you don't want the card on top, you put it into your graveyard. Which is relevant for things like Jumpstart, and we're not going to see them this episode, but for Undergrowth, the Golgari mechanic, which cares about creatures in a bin, so things being in the bin, so it won't be just Dimir that wants surveil. And likewise, Dimir will also want things that care about Jumpstart and things because they get benefit off of surveil. But a 6-mana 5/4 flyer, I'm in. When it dies, you get to, for most things, think of surveil 2 as just have it read scry 2 when evaluating these cards. There are things that will care about, like things like that, but it's like a slightly better scry in some means. That said, I could definitely see, like, especially when you get like the more synergistic stuff of draft, surveilling your entire deck away. So be careful about that, and then milling yourself out. But that said, I mean, 5 mana or 6 mana 5/4 flying, I'm into that. Surveil 2 when it dies, I'm into that. So yeah. Dazzling Lights. It's one blue for an instant. Target creature gets -3/-0 until end of turn. Surveil 2. It's often said that like scry 2 to 2.5 is about equal to draw a card, and I would prefer this to say 1 blue instant. Card creature gets -3/-0 till end of turn, draw a card. But honestly, as a combat trick you can cast this in response to a mentor trigger to mess up their mentor trigger while also like blanking some damage, and things like that, and getting surveil. And there are Dimir stuff that like cares like when you surveil and gives you benefits when you surveil, so you can kind of like cycle it if you need to. So I don't mind this. Like, I think you do need a little bit of surveil synergies and reasons to want the surveil. But if you need just like a few combat tricks, like this is just a real solid combat trick to be running. For both a help me win this turn this trade into just a winning this combat, or I get to I just want to blank some damage to give myself some time because I'm getting punched in the face by the Boros. Next up is Devious Cover-Up, which is 2 blue and blue for counter target spell. If that spell is countered this way, exile it instead of putting it to its owner's graveyard. You may shuffle 4 cards from your graveyard into your library. I'm not a big fan of 4-mana counter spells. I'm just not. Like, cancel is already iffy in limited, and paying 4 mana is just like, the benefit of like exiling it isn't as useful, as also like the shuffle isn't super relevant. So I'm not into Devious Cover-Up. Like, I love countering spells, but it's not like this. This is no Essence Scatter. Dimir Informant. It's a 3-mana 1/4 when it enters battlefield. Surveil 2. It's kind of like a slightly bigger Omen Speaker in some ways that also cares synergistically about surveil, if you have things that care about that. So it's a 3-mana 1/4, which is a great blocker, especially when you looked at like all the Selesyna Pro stuff that does have smaller things, like it blocks tokens really well, even if they've been like pumped up a little bit and things like that, and being able to surveil too is also just very nice. No. Next is Disdainful Stroke, which is 1 and blue for an instant. Counter target spell of converted mana cost 4 or greater. Honestly, I think this is a fine card to be running main board in most decks. A lot of the stuff that you want to counter is the bigger stuff, and yeah, no. I don't think it's as good as Essence Scatter, but I think it's perfectly runnable in Limit. Especially once you get into like if you've got any Goblin Electromancers, and they're the fact that also I should mention that also has cards that don't just care about Jumpstart, but care about just casting instants and sorceries. And if you are in that deck, the value of instant sorceries like these goes up. And this one it counters relevant stuff. It's cheap, and yeah, I like Disdainful Stroke. Next up is Dream Eater, which is creepy as all hell, but it is a 6 mana 4/3 flying with flash. Already, like, 6 mana 4/3 flyer is like, I'm not super excited about that, but like, flash isn't bad, so you can ambush stuff. And when you enter the battlefield, you may surveil 4. 4. That's a lot of card selection, setting up your next few draws. And when you do, you may return target non-land permanent an opponent controls to its owner's hand. So it just does so much. Like, all the effects alone are like, okay. It's like, okay, 6 mana, 4/3 flying. No, I'm not bad. No, I'm down for that. Okay, it's fine. Flash. Or should ambush small creatures, like, or flash at end of turn, and all of a sudden you have a 4 power flying threat they didn't calculate for. Okay, it surveils 4. Okay, I'm now really into this. Like, okay, we got massive amounts of card selection. And it's, an Angler Drake or Mana War stapled onto that. Like, yes, this is it's just like, let's staple on every single blue mechanic we can think on onto a creature, give it really creepy art, and call it a day. And damn if that isn't one fine creature. There's a reason it's a mythic. That said, like, all said, for a mythic, it actually is very mundane. Like, these are all, like, common effects. So it's stuff like Surveil 4 is a bit much for that, but, like, these are, like, super out there effects, but it's just like, let's cram them all into one monstrous beast. Next up is Drowned Secrets. It's 1 and a blue for an enchantment. Whenever you cast a blue spell, target player puts the top 2 cards of their library into their graveyard. Mill is not supported and limited in this format. Don't do it. Just don't do it. And also, this just reminds me that I'm so sad about rotation. I've been playing this horrible, like, blue-white mill deck on Arena, and it's bad, but with the loss of Frank's sanity from Hour of Devastation, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work anymore, and I'm sad. This is no replacement. This isn't even a Psychic Corrosion for all I care. Like, no, Drowned Secrets, go away. Next up is Enhanced Surveillance. It's 1 and a blue for an enchantment. You may look at an additional 2 cards each time you surveil. So all of a sudden, you're surveilling a lot. Like, you get so much card selection. And you can also exile to shuffle your graveyard into your library, so giving you some protection from, like, milling yourself out and limited. Obviously you need the surveil cards to, like, kind of set this up, but the amount of just card advantage this is generating over time. Sure, it's an enchantment that doesn't affect the board state, but it's a 2-mana enchantment. Like, enchantments that don't affect the board state, like, aren't really an issue until you start looking at, like, 4 and 5 mana enchantments, and you start really gotta make sure, like, you're getting bang for your buck. But this comes down early. It comes down, like, with your other surveil, like, before you're playing a lot of your surveil cards already. You're just getting massive amounts of card advantage. It protects you against the one, like, possible fallacy of surveil itself. this is just a really good kind of like, not payoff for surveil. I mean, it is a payoff because it makes it better, but oh, that's great. Also, I love like the whole like rainy look and stuff. It feels like Seattle. The rain's finally back here and I'm so excited. It's so good. I've missed it. The summer's been the worst. It's been so dry. Okay. Next up is Guild Summit, which is a 3-mana enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you may tap any number of untapped gates you control. Draw a card for each gate tapped this way. And whenever a gate enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. Okay. Okay. Bad. Terrible. I think this is unplayable. And here's why. I've actually thought about this beforehand. I mean, I thought about all these beforehand, but, like, actually at length. Okay. I would be more into it if this said, Guild Summit, when there's battlefield, draw a card for each gate you control. I'd be so much more in for that. But the fact that, because, like, the gates are tap lands that enter the battlefield, they're just the tap lands for this. Which, there is kind of like some of these gates matters cards throughout the set. But, and like, this one's like not bad, but it's like, usually you want to play those first. And so, the thing is just like, the critical mass of gates to make this work just isn't viable and limited. And you're not going to want to be playing off-color gates for this. And the fact that, okay, you're like, oh, but the fact that it's a 3-mana enchantment, that is effectively a more mana enchantment if you want to get back retail on gates you've already played. And it's a 3-mana enchantment that does not affect the board state in any way. This is bad. This is really bad. Really bad. Do not play this card. It's bad. Next up is Leapfrog. It is a 3-mana, 3/1 that has flying as long as you've cast an instant or sorcery spell this turn. Okay, it's 3-mana, 3/1, which isn't like irrelevant. Like, I told you I don't like 3/1s. Like, if this was a 3-mana, 3/1 flyer, I might be a little bit more into it. But even then, I'm not huge into it. Like, it is a good frog friend, but I don't think he does enough. I really don't. Like, the fact that he's only passable when you, like, activate his, like his required effect, and, like, the Izzet deck might get there, but the thing is, like, think about this about these instant sorcery decks, and I've talked about this in past sets that had instant and sorcery themes, is that the creatures are the card type of limited, and the instance sorceries you want to run are the instance sorceries that everyone wants to run. You don't want to be running too many of the, like, mediocre subpar instance and sorceries. And if you're having to make your deck, like, worse by running more of the subpars, like, it doesn't justify having a really just average grade creature. I'm gonna give a big fat no to Leapfrog. I'm sorry, frog friend, but this is no. Next up is Maximize Altitude, which is 1 blue for sorcery. Target creature gets +1/+1 and gains flying until end of turn, and it has Jumpstart. This is one, it's like, if you have a deck that cares about instants and sorceries, like, this is, like, not bad. It can push in some damage. It'll trigger anything that cares about instants and sorceries. Not Leapfrog, though, because Leapfrog's upside for instant sorceries, this card already does. I would like this a lot more if it was an instant. A lot more if it was an instant. But if you need to make critical mass of instant sorceries, this is fine. But not great. It's not a combat trick. It's a enabler for the instant sorcery spells and stuff. Alright, next up is Mission Briefing. It's blue for an instant. Surveil 2. Then choose an instant or sorcery card in your graveyard. If you may cast that card this turn, If that card would be put in a graveyard for this turn, exile instead. This is the creatureless Snapcaster Mage. Although it does give you surveil too. Like, I think this is fine. Like, obviously you do need to have the instant sorceries to make this work. But the fact that, like, you can't kind of cycle it with that, and if you have any of the surveil payoffs, that obviously gets better. And, if you get to put, and be able to, like, just, like, snap back a removal spell or something like that isn't bad. You do still need the mana for the spell that you're casting, but I don't think that's too bad. Like, and it is an instant itself for, like, Izzet things that care about, doing the spell slinger type stuff, so yeah, I think mission briefing is perfectly viable. Next up is Murmuring Mystic, which is a 4-mana 1/5. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 1/1 blue illusion creature token flying. Now this is an instant sorcery payoff I am down for. So it's a 4-mana 1/5, which if you're being kind of one of these like more controlling decks, I'm already kind of in for. Like, that blocks a lot. 4 mana is a little bit high, but like the fact that then you're also going to like just turn like any instant sorceries also turning into 1/1 flyers is real nice. Also really cool art. It reminds me of that one Invocation of Kefnet. Is that the Days art? But it looks really cool. Yeah, no, I'm really into, like, this is one of, like, the payoffs for this, like, Izzet Spellslinger deck, and it's one of the good ones. Hey, turns out a little bit more expensive young pyromancers that also makes things fly is good. Did you know that young pyromancer with wings is good? Next up is Muse Drake. It is a 4-mana 1/3 flyer. When it enters battlefield, draw a card. I mean, Skyscanner was a relevant card, and this is one more, but it also gets 3 toughness. It's fine. It's nothing flashy, but it's fine. Now, Amoeba. It's a 2-mana 1/1 flyer. And whenever it is put from your graveyard from your library into your graveyard from your library, you may put it onto the battlefield. So ideally the thought is like you'll surveil this into your graveyard and get into the battlefield. I don't think this is good. Even if you're surveilling this in the graveyard, like maybe if you have like a ton of surveil to enable to get it for free-ish, it's fine, but you don't want 2-mana 1/1 flyers. And even then, a 1/1 flyer isn't that great. And if you draw this, it feels so bad. So, no to Amoeba. Not feeling it. Next up is Nightveil Sprite, which is a 2-mana 1/2 flyer. And whenever it attacks, surveil 1. 2-mana 1/2 flyer. I mean, I prefer 2-mana 2/1 flyers, but I'll take it. And just getting that repeated, like, surveil. And if you have any, like, the newer payoffs that, like, here when you surveil, it just, like, really can help spiral out of control. And, yeah, no, it doesn't do a lot of damage, but, like, just being able to set up that stuff early. And having a 2-mana creature that's, like, if you need it, like, early and facing an aggro is super useful. And, yeah, no, I'm into this. Next up is Omnispell Adept. It is a 5-mana 3/4 human wizard, and you may pay 3 mana and tap it to cast an instant or sorcery spell from your hand without paying its mana cost. The thing is that by the time you have 5 mana to cast this, you're probably going to be able to cast any instant or sorcery in your hand anyway. So I really don't think this is that great. Like, you can cast sorcery spells at instant speed, but also, like, for most of the instant sorcery you want to play, you're not, it's not like you're getting a huge discount on them. Because it's not like you're paying, like, 7 mana instant sorceries unlimited. It's not like you're, like, paying this to cast Praetor's Council. So I don't think this is good. It doesn't even let you cast, like, do things for jumpstart or anything like that, so I'm not an Omnispell Adept. Next up is Passfall Adept. It's a 2-mana 1/3. So you can also pay 3 mana, 2 and a blue to make target creature unblockable. Well, can't be blocked this turn. Come on, Wizards, make unblockable a keyword. Like, why hasn't that happened? Like, it's very obvious. Like, there's probably some important actual reason, but yeah. So, I mean, it's a 2-mana 1/3, which I don't mind as a body with a really relevant ability that can, like, help get through board stalls and things like that, and having a 2-drop blocker for, like, early Boros aggro is real nice, and yeah, no, I'm real into Passwall Adept for both decks in blue. Next up is Quasi-Duplicate. It's a 3-mana sorcery to create a token that's a copy of target creature you control with Jumpstart. I like this. Like, it is 2 creatures in 1, it copies your best creature, and then you get to do it again. A lot of these copies copy spells are like, they are dependent on you having a creature, but the fact that you get to do this twice, I think, really makes it, like, like, pushes over the edge and makes it quite nice. Obviously, it is kind of awkward that's, like, an Izzet deck where, like, you're not maybe running as many creatures, but, yeah. No, I could see this being just a real solid thing to get in thing. Especially for, like, a lot of the big blue flyers and things like that. Like, yeah, I'm into Quasi-Duplicate. Next up is Radical Idea, which is a 2-mana instant, draw a card, and you can jumpstart it. This is one that you pretty much, this is no opt, and you pretty much, you're not gaining a card either time, and honestly, you pretty much only want this for, like, any instant or sorcery payoffs you have. I don't think it's otherwise you're just better off not running this. Next up is Selective Snare, which is a X and a blue for sorcery. Return X target creatures of the creature type of your choice to their owner's hand. This is great. Like, okay, against the token deck, so many of them are either, like, soldiers, like, most of them are soldiers, so you could, like, bounce a bunch of soldiers to their hand, and, or, actually, also, a lot of, like, the Boros creatures are just soldiers, like, you just get to bounce all of them, like, at minimum, you get to, like, bounce, like, 1 creature, which is, like, not great at sorcery speed, but, I think, like, this is fine if you're not playing against Boros Selesyna, but if you're playing against Boros Selesyna, this could just be a complete blowout. So yeah, no. Yeah, I would probably sideboard it out against, playing Izzet or Golgari. Actually, Golgari might be a little bit more relevant to have it in, but it depends on their deck, obviously. But, this is just going to be such a hoser against Boros and Selesyna decks. Next up is Sinister Sabotage, which is a 3-mana instant, 1 blue for counter target spell, surveil 1. It's like Dissolve, but instead of scry, you surveil. It's like it's better counsel, and you know what, like, I think it's better enough. Like, this is starting to get to the point where, like, I'm a bit more into it, especially if you have Goblin Electromancers and this becomes counterspell, and things like that. So, yeah, no, I like Sinister Sabotage. It's relevant in both the decks that want them. It gives you surveil things for Demir's spell stuff, enables Jumpstart, and it's an instant sorcery if it cares about that, and it has the best 3 words of magic, counter target spell. So yeah, no, I like Sinister Sabotage quite a bit. Next up is Thought-Bound Phantasm. It's 1 blue for a defender. It's a 2/2. And whenever you surveil, put a +1 counter on it. And as long as it has +3 or more +1/+1 counters, you can attack as though if it doesn't have defender. This is amazing. Like, this is one of those surveil payoffs, and we've seen that there's a lot of, like, surveil effects and repeatable surveil effects, like the sprite that like surveils on attack and stuff, and the fact that this just scales so well with the game, it blocks amazingly, and I think this would be one of the premium, like, obviously you do have to get the surveil things, but even just a 1-mana 2/2 defender for any sort of like kind of like control deck, that's not a bad creature to have. So I'm on board the Thoughtbound Phantasm plan. Like, I'm a Selesyna girl at heart, but I gotta say the Dimir stuff, the Dimir surveil synergy stuff really interests me. Next up we have Unexplained Disappearance, which is 1 and blue for return target creature to its owner's hand at instant, surveil 1. I am into this. Like, bounce effects are cool, and just popping on a surveil onto that is real nice, and it's instant. It's a good instant for the Izzet stuff that cares about that. So, yeah, Unexplained Disappearance, very nice. The Dalkin Mesmerist. It is a 2-mana 2/1, and whenever it attacks, target creature an opponent controls gets -2/-0 until its turn. So, I've talked about how I don't like pikers, because they just don't attack very well, but this one kind of gets around that in some ways, where you are one, like, it kind of like, it doesn't necessarily trade as easily. Obviously, it's still really bad against any sort of token deck, and I think this is a fine 2-drop. I don't think it's a premium 2-drop. Like, it wants to be very aggressive, and neither of the decks that are wanting to do that are super aggressive. So I think it's fine, but it's nothing insane. Wall of Mist. It's 2-mana 0/5 defender. Yeah, I think it's one of those. This is one that, like, for the control decks, you might be running it, but will be a lot more relevant if these, if like the Boros aggro decks really become an issue. That said, it being a defender, like an 0/5 can become a liability, because it does let them just attack into it for free to just get those mentor counters up and stuff like that. But it'll block damage for a long while, and if those become a problem, if your deck is super slow, this will probably want to be like the control's answer to a lot of heavy aggro decks. And the fact that we've seen a couple of these like really good blue blockers at 2-drops at common makes me think that at least the Dimir and Izzet decks will be able to keep kind of the Boros decks in check. Next up is Watcher in the Mist, which is a 5-mana 3/4 flying. 5-mana 3/4 flyer. I'm into that. And when it enters the battlefield, surveil 2. And that's almost drawing a card. So, yeah, no. It's just, that's a real good common flyer. Just like, a lot of the blue things are really good at gumming up the ground for these ground things that just have real solid flyers to get through the air, which is just a quintessentially blue thing to do. So, yeah. And I think this is the last one. Yep. This is Wishcoin Crab, which is a 4-mana 2/5. I want to be doing more of my 4-mana 4-drop, but it's fine, I guess. But it's like 4-drops are usually hotly contended and limited, so I'm not big on Wishcoin Crab. And that is it for blue and white. I am so excited for the set. Really, again, to get really a full idea for a lot of the archetypes, we will have to get to the other videos, but we'll get to for the gold cards. But yeah, no, you can definitely tell what blue wants to do. Blue is all about blue stuff. Like, blue is being very blue in this set. It's like, I want to control the ground, I want to be like, gum up the board, I want to get tons of card selection advantage and have good flyers. Hey, it's blue things. But yeah, also just like a surprising number of like actually like blue stuff that is very targeted, like stopping these like go wide aggro decks. So yeah, well, this has been this episode, and I'll see you all tomorrow for Black and Red Rakdos, even though Rakdos isn't in this set. That's next set. But, yeah. Well, I guess also Zorius wasn't in this one, but, I will talk to you all later, and, I hope you have a wonderful night. And may your story smile upon you.